Hi, thank you guys for being here today. I almost wasn't going to be here. I was on set today and I wasn't sure what time I'd get out, so I had Chris standing by, but I was really wanting to get out in time because I'll be away the next 2 weeks, so I won't be seeing you, and I didn't see you last week, and so I was really happy when I found out at lunchtime that I was going to be released. And I made sure that they would take a look at the script and make sure they got what they needed, because it was sort of there's just a lot going on, and I could have easily been forgotten in some room, so I was like, can I go? Can I go? But this is one of the gifts of the practice, is that I used to have this really solid experience around who I was, right? And when I started meditating and everything started coming apart, I was terrified. And I would say to my teacher, well, what is going to happen to my art? What's going to happen to me being an actor? What's going to happen? I don't even care anymore. I don't care about it. I let go of my agents. I stopped auditioning. But that's who I am. That's who I am. And he said, well, don't worry about that. He had told me this many times. Don't worry about that. Your authentic self is going to bubble up as you work, as you practice. And again, it will bubble, and again, it will bubble, and keep revealing itself. And I just had to trust that. I certainly didn't believe it. I was certainly filled with anxiety about the fact that this thing that I had been for so long, since I was a little girl, was just no longer doing the thing it used to do. It was no longer helping me to maintain a solid sense of self. That was coming apart. So I had to really give into it. I just had to give in. And in the meantime, I meditated a lot. And I went to a lot of retreats, and I sat for hours every day, and it was awesome. And eventually, somewhere down the line, I said, I really miss that part of me that got on stage or in front of a camera. I just really miss that part of me. And I just sort of sat with it and hung out with it. But eventually, it just started to bubble up. And I was like, okay, well, it doesn't feel authentic for me to go get repped and go out to all these commercial auditions in Santa Monica every day. And sell God knows what with my face and my voice. That didn't feel right anymore. And so I was like, well, I don't know. Well, maybe I should take some classes. Now, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to high school. I really didn't go to much grade school. I certainly didn't go to college. And so learning was something that I was very insecure around. Had a lot of blocks around it because I was basically just faking my way through life, ending up in all kinds of situations which I should have had high degrees to be in, just based on the way I could talk myself into it and the way I could deliver. But there was this fear, this deep-rooted insecurity around being good enough, being smart enough. And so I didn't even want to take acting classes, even though I'd been acting since I was a kid. So it's like, oh, maybe it's time to take acting classes. And I came to that because I had sat down and learned to meditate. I had learned to do this thing. I was even teaching this thing. So I was like, oh, I did that. Maybe I could. So I started going to acting classes, and I went through some terror because I got things wrong. And I was like, no. But then I learned, and I started learning. And so I really engaged in this sort of really rich and rewarding experience of years of acting training. And a couple years ago, I got offered a film. It was one of those calls that the actors are just like wishing they would get. And I got this call, supporting lead, fairly big budget shooting somewhere awesome. And I was like, yes. Oh my God, I can't believe we got this call. But it just didn't line up. It wasn't the script, the whole kind of schedule, it wasn't aligned with where I was at. It wasn't going to work out for me. It was going to make my life very complicated. So I realized two things. One, because I cried for like a week after I turned the role down. One, I realized, okay, I really want to be acting. Two, I really want to be doing things that are perfectly aligned with me and aligned with the other stuff I'm doing in my life. And in this case, going to do this, there were a lot of things that would disrupt. And I had come to really love my life at this point. So I was like, all right, though, I want to act. And so started trying to discover what that would be for me now as the person that I am today, or was then. And it was like, yeah, I want to work with people that I really like. I want to make my own stuff. I want to be like, I want it to be really aligned with what's valuable to me, what my like highest purpose is. And so I just started putting that out in the world. And flash forward a few years, that part of my life is really rich, really blossoming in wonderful ways, both my own work and work with other people. And way back when I first started meditating, I believed that I could not have both. I was either a meditation person who taught meditation and wrote about meditation, or I was an actor or filmmaker. At that time, I wasn't even a filmmaker. I was either an actor or this thing, couldn't have both. Well, you can look at anything that way. It's got to be either A or B, that's it. That's very black and white thinking. At the beginning of my practice, I was still in a very black and white thinking frame of mind. And over time, that softened and it softened and it softened. And the crazy thing is writing and teaching meditation is actually the thing that supports me in being an actor and filmmaker. Like, who would have thought, right? I could have never imagined that. It's just kind of crazy. And my life has this beautiful balance because I'm in that world, which is that world, and then I'm in this world, which is this world, and it's just this nice balance. I get to be really alive and human and totally in my spiritual practice at the same time. So this idea of solid self and of getting attached to solid self and thinking it's this, I'm this or I'm that, or if I'm not that, oh my God, what am I? That becomes, especially early on in early awakenings and early practice, when we're really starting to learn to deconstruct this sense of self, that becomes a big part of it. And it can be exciting, it can be scary, it can be really confusing, unsettling, chaotic, and it can go on for as long as it goes on. And we really do just need to trust, and we need to lean into our communities, and we need to lean into our teachers. We need to talk about it, because up until I started doing this work, I was so afraid of change. Like, I didn't want anything to change. I was holding on so tight. So when things just start coming apart, we need support. Even if we're really happy about it, we need support. So that's what Eastside Mindfulness Collective is all about. Is we're here to support each other, right? Some of us teach, some of us are just here as part of the community. Some of us come in and out. Some of us, and some of us did teach and now we don't, or didn't and now we will. It's like, it's this beautiful flowing thing, right? And we're all coming together to be able to support each other. You guys support me as much as I support you. That's how it works. But it is important that we do come to that place where we start to see that there is not a solid self that is me. Because that insight leads to the end of suffering. Because if you are not your thoughts and your emotions, if there's more to you than that, then when depression strikes, when anxiety strikes, when tragedy strikes, yes, we feel the feelings, yes, we experience the thoughts, but we do not identify with them to the point where we suffer. And this takes practice, just like anything, just like learning a musical instrument. I think of it the same way. You can learn not to suffer just like you can learn to play the piano. And then life happens and then maybe you suffer. Just like maybe you're ready to learn a new style of piano playing and you're a little clumsy for a while and then you learn. So how do we begin to deconstruct that process of self, of thought and emotion? That's what we're going to do today, and many of you have done it with me before. Because I'm not going to be here for 2 weeks, I want to leave you with this and invite you to practice it for the next couple of weeks. It's my go-to practice. It's my go-to practice for almost everyone I work with at some point or another. And it's what, rocketed me into a whole different paradigm, just working with this technique. And a lot of what we do here is a little looser, a little less technique-based, because even though all are welcome, including beginners, this kind of is an advanced class. And eventually technique falls away. So usually we're not doing heavy technique. But this technique is really important, and it's something that everyone should just have in their back pocket. So, here's how it works. We observe, we witness, we explore with curiosity and with acceptance our emotional sensations and our mental activity. That might be mental talk, it might be mental image. So let's start with emotional sensations. Many of you have done this with me, so shout out what an emotional sensation is for you. One of them or two of them.
Tightness in the throat.
Tightness in the throat, yeah. What else? Chills. Mm-hmm. Pulsating in your chest. Anything else? How about a pleasant one? A pleasant emotional sensation.
Like warmth in the core.
Mm-hmm. Warmth in the core. Yeah.
I get a brightness in the face. Right?
Yeah. Brightness in the face. Yeah. Yeah. So you'll notice, those of you that are new to this, that the folks who've been practicing, they didn't say anxiety in the stomach. They didn't say happiness, joy in the face or the belly. We're not talking in thought, in mind, in story about emotion. We're actually talking in sensation, which is a really important distinction here, because what we're learning to do is separate the thoughts from the emotions. So, while you may know what that warmth by the eyes is, or what that tightness in the chest is, or what that pulsating is, while you might know what it is, you don't need to worry about that for this technique. If you know, if you don't know, doesn't matter, okay? So the way we work with these emotional sensations is we simply put our attention on them, wherever they are in the body, if we're aware of emotional sensation, and we just feel it. So the same way I could run my fingers over the texture of my furry meditation mat and feel it, I'm doing the same thing right now inside my body with any emotional sensation. So they're pretty subtle, but there are a few going on. There's kind of a tickly warm feeling going up my neck and into my jaw. And there's just a slight tension in my stomach, probably from drinking the coffee. I think it's sort of slightly emotional, because it's a slight, anxious feeling. And so I'm just noticing it as I'm talking, right? I'm just feeling this sort of warm, tingly feeling. I'm noticing this little bit of tension in the belly. I'm just feeling it. Now, if I was to go in, close my eyes, really focus on it, I could start to really get a sense of how much space it takes up, how it's moving, how it spreads, and just feeling. I'm going to choose one. I'm going to feel the warm, tickly feeling here, and I'm just putting my attention on it, my physical attention, my physical awareness, and I'm just feeling it. Okay? So don't worry about it if you can't find any emotional sensations. There may or may not be any. For some people, they're just ripe with emotional sensations. For others, it's not something they notice much, especially sitting in a room with nothing really going on, right? What you may notice is that when a certain thought arises, there's a reaction in the body, at which time you can bring the attention to that sensation and notice it as an emotional sensation, okay? So, make sense so far? Any questions about that part? Okay, so then we move on to the mind. So we have auditory thinking, which everyone close your eyes and say your address in your mind. Okay, now I can read minds, so I know where all of you live, and I'm gonna come over now. So where did you feel that? Or where did you hear that, rather? Or maybe feel it?
Throat.
In your throat, mm-hmm. Anyone else? In your head, towards the front for you? Towards the front. Anyone towards the back? In the middle, in the back. Cool. Okay, so all different places, right? I've heard people say they hear their mental talk in their stomach. So it could be anywhere. Maybe you hear it over there. So what do we do with that? We just put our attention on it. We do not try to turn it off. We do not try to quiet it. We just notice it. Could be subtle, could be really loud. We could be really sure what the words are, or we might have no idea. Sometimes I have languages I do not know happening in my mind. I'm like, I don't know what that was. I've heard people say they just hear screaming. Or maybe, a journey song. It could be a list of things you need to do. It could be a conversation being replayed that you wished had gone differently. Right? So there's a lot of different things that could be going on in there. Oftentimes it's a narration of your meditation. I'm doing this wrong, or oh yeah, I'm really concentrated. Yes. Somebody. So whatever it is, all you're going to do is you're just going to witness it. You're going to listen to it. Eventually you'll go to listen to that voice or those voices as if it's someone else or someone else is talking. Eventually that's how much you're able to step back from it. And eventually it could even just be like a wave of sensation. There's so much disillusion around it that you don't even need to be in touch with the words themselves, at least during this meditation. Now that's down the line. For some of you it's not, but for some of you it is. We're not trying to make that happen. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what it could look like. Again, we're not trying to quiet it, we're not trying to shut it off. You might put your attention to that area and everything just goes quiet. Fine. I always say, I grew up in poverty and we had roaches a lot, and so it's sort of like when you turn the light on and the roaches scurry. That can happen inside the mind. When we sort of shine the light of awareness, it just stops. And usually what happens soon after is, hey, I'm not having any thoughts. Well, there you go. That's a thought. And all you're going to do is witness it. There's not good thoughts or bad thoughts. They're just thoughts. All of them. We don't give them a value one way or the other in this technique. So you don't need to change them. We're working on observing them with curiosity, with acceptance, with equanimity. We're working on really letting go of our personal attachment to them. We're not taking them personally. We're just noticing it. It's activity. It's coming, it's going. It's coming, it's going. It's getting louder, it's getting softer. The pitch is changing. It's a constant flow. And the more that you observe it, the more time you spend hanging out with this activity, the more interesting it becomes, the more layers there are, okay? The other piece here is mental image. So close your eyes and imagine a pet or a place you've been on a trip or whatever you want. Imagine something and create the image in your mind. Okay, so some of you are probably easily able to create an image. For some of you, maybe there was no image and you just felt like your head was starting to hurt trying. Who easily created an image? Okay, anyone have a really hard time creating an image? Okay, so we're not going to do that in the meditation. We're not going to intentionally create an image. Maybe towards the end we will. We're not going to intentionally create an image. I just wanted folks to get a sense of where that happened. So where did that happen for some of you? Where did you see it? Here?
Well, I mean, actually, yeah.
Anyone have like a 360 experience?
Yeah. I felt a lot of like sensation that came along with the image.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of made me think that it's somewhat difficult for me to separate image from like physical sensation as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, ultimately that's fine. Today we'll play around with working on separating them, but, you don't have to, right? This is just one technique. So yeah, so people are usually getting image here. Sometimes it's everywhere. Sometimes you're like fully immersed. I remember this one student of mine years ago, she loved Paris, and we did this meditation, and after she was like, I was in Paris. I could see it, I could smell it, I could hear it. It was everywhere. I never wanted it to end. I was like, that's cool. I tended to see demons and werewolves myself, so Paris sounded nice. All depends on how that brain gets wired when you're under the age of 5. So, now I see Paris, though. I'm better now. No. I have a lot less activity now, honestly. I mean, that's what happens. The mind kind of settles down, you know. Kind of, after a while, you've been sitting with it for a while, it's like, all right, I'm going to stop cooking up crazy stuff. Unless it's like late at night and you're sort of in dreamland. Anyway. Same thing with the images, we're just observing them, we're not doing anything with them. Remember, you don't have to create them. None of this do you have to create, none of this do you have to get rid of. Just remember that, and you'll do fine. The images, you may be really clear on what they are. You may see them full color, sound maybe, they might look like a film or a photograph, or it might just be kind of a wispy, shadowy thing moving through. It might not be clear at all. And either one of those is okay, combination is okay, no image at all is okay. If there are images, we just notice, they come and they go. You can get really in there, you can start to notice the pixelation, you can see the morphing in and out, you can see the layers of image, right? So you go as deep as you go, you know, whatever's available to you today. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up to all 3 of them, and I'm just going to guide you, but you have the option of working with any of them. Okay, so we're just going to start off that way. Oftentimes we do it different, but I think you guys can handle it. So one of the things that this meditation does is it deconstructs the experience of being a me. A self is made of thought and emotion. If you think about any experience you've had, think of an experience you had earlier today. I was on set. Somebody apologized to me for something. I apologized to them for something. We had a misunderstanding the day before. And there were emotional sensations, and there were thoughts. But because I sit with this stuff all the time, none of it, even when the thing was happening the day before, none of it was like all bunched together and overwhelming. It's just like, oh, there's a flow of sensation, there's a flow of thought, and now here I am with this person. I'm not caught in it, I'm not stuck in that filter, it's just happening and I'm connecting, right? And so that's what you get from learning to deconstruct. You have a moment, maybe a challenging moment, and you don't get all tangled up in a knot of thought and emotion. Instead, it's all freely flowing, and you're able to be present because you're not resisting any of it. You're not judging any of it. It's just human experience, right? But it's also not permanent and it's not solid. So this technique helps us to deconstruct the experience of being a me. It also is, the way we're going to do it today, is definitely a form of insight meditation. Because what you may find is a certain thought or set of thoughts, a thought pattern arises, maybe a negative one that has been playing for a while now. Then you notice, oh, when that thought pattern starts, my chest locks up and there's all this tension, or my stomach gets swirly, or my heart starts to beat. And then you notice, oh, interesting. Look at how that all works together. And then maybe you notice a pleasant image or pleasant thought, and then see what happens in the body with that, right? And so this is all connected, and generally our thoughts are creating what we're feeling. There are times when that's not the case, but for the most part, our thoughts, because our thoughts are labeling what's happening, right? So it's helpful to know what your thoughts are doing to your body. So this will help with that. It's not necessarily relaxing and easy, so sorry. Last thing I want to say, and this is for a few of you in particular, you know who you are. This technique may not be for you today. You may not be in a place where deconstructing is a good idea. You may be in a place where loving kindness is a good idea. You may be in a place where just relaxing is a good idea. You may be in a place where just putting your hand on your chest and your belly and saying, I love you, you're safe, is a good idea. Okay? So you are your own best teacher, and you need to decide what's right for you. If we're halfway through and you're like, whoa, wait a second, this is feeling not so good. I'm feeling like I'm gonna check out. I'm feeling like I'm having like a trauma response. Not saying that's gonna happen, but it can. Just go to something that feels okay. Just go somewhere, find some resource in the body, practice some loving kindness, just focus on your breath. Just relax your body, move from your head to your toes, relaxing. That's what we're gonna start with anyway. So that's always there for you. We're not here to push through stuff and traumatize ourselves, you know? Which is what I did for like 3 years of my practice when I started. And my body is now, I think, dealing with some of the consequences of that. I think that's part of my host of health issues. It's just a theory. I don't have scientific proof for that. But so do what's right for you. Be gentle. Be brave. Any questions? If you're unclear about something, unsure about something, now is the time. All right. Anyone who's been practicing this for a while who was like, hey, there's this one thing she didn't say, and it was really important for me when I started.
I found it useful last time we were finishing is that sometimes with watching the thought that they can come so fast that you can't actually notice when one begins and one ends, and so then putting your attention on how thought is moving or flowing. So just sort of watching, oh, it's going really fast like this, or sort of that essence, or sometimes for myself labeling it talk.
That would be for the mental talk.
Right, right, or image sensation. Those three things really work for me. I know some people it makes them feel like a judgment. For me, it just sort of like once it's labeled, it's sort of done.
Sure.
So I like that talk image sensation.
Great, thank you, Stella. Yeah. So yes, images. We want to notice the activity, both with everything, all of it. We are ultimately interested in that flow, in the movement and change, in the way these images are coming and going, like Stella said. Same thing with the sensations. They're moving, they're changing. Even the ones that seem really solid, they're not solid, okay? And then the labels she mentioned. So since you mentioned them, I'll bring them up. I don't always offer them because for some people it just makes things more complicated, but for some people it actually is quite helpful. And since this is kind of the get down to the basics, brass knuckles? Brass tacks.
Beat the shit out of it.
Brass knuckles. See, there's my brain again. Still working on rewiring it. So there are labels you can use, and these labels can be very helpful with equanimity, acceptance, and they can also just facilitate mindfulness. So I'll offer them to you. They are optional. So here's our labels for today. We have talk for mental talk, image for mental image, and emotion for any emotional sensations. If you're not sure if it's emotional, fine, just guess, or it's just a sensation, it's not emotional, that's fine. If you have no emotional sensations and you want to notice sensation, that's fine. Or you can come to thought, talk, or image. And so the way we use the label is we say it silently in our mind. Talk, emotion, emotion, image, talk. Okay, so I closed my eyes and immediately had this rush of happy emotions, so I sort of started getting fast. It's probably the coffee. You want to do it in a neutral, sort of gentle way. Okay, so you're not commanding yourself, and it's not like talk, god damn it again. It's just like, oh, talk. Okay, talk. Of course, the labels are mental talk. So don't label your labels. Don't get in the K-hole of talk. And drop the labels if they don't work for you. It's just an option. It's just something that is really helpful for some people. It was very helpful for me in the beginning. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Sometimes I can get like so forceful with the concentration that I can forget to breathe.
Yeah.
Reminding myself to breathe when I'm doing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good point, because this is, as well as being an insight practice and a deconstruction practice, this is also a concentration practice, right? We're focusing on these 3 sensory experiences. And Joy is saying, sometimes when I'm concentrating like that, it's just like there's sort of this clamp down that happens. Now, sometimes I'm guessing you stop breathing because you're just breathing really, really slow, right? Like we get into such a deep state. Yeah, right? So there's that. That's one thing that can happen. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side is we're just concentrating so hard that we don't breathe, and our face is scrunched up, and we're like, we don't want to do that, right? So if you notice you're doing that, just let it go. Take it easy. It's not so serious. It's just meditation. And breathe. Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay. Let's do it. That was a lot of information, which is one of the downsides to teaching this, is there's a lot to get in quickly. So don't worry if you didn't get it all, or if you feel overwhelmed by it. You'll just have whatever experience you're going to have. And as long as you're being nice to yourself, as long as you're being gentle and brave, as long as you're not trying to make something happen or not happen, then you're just fine. You know what? Even if any of those things are happening, you're still just fine. It's all okay. So go ahead and close your eyes. And we're just going to do something real quick. I want everybody to just shake their hands out. Shake your hands out. Shake it 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 out. Okay, and now you can rest your hands back down. Take a big, deep breath into the belly, breathing in and out with a sigh. 2 more, breathing in. 1 more, breathing in. Excellent. Okay. Lengthening the spine, grounding the seat. And we'll begin to invite the body to relax. Starting with the forehead, invite the forehead to soften and smooth out. Expression beginning to melt away. Letting go. Moving to the eyebrows and the space between the eyebrows, softening, releasing, relaxing. Inviting the eyes to relax and all the little muscles around your eyes. The gaze behind your eyelids relaxing. Softening down over your cheeks and into your jaw. Allowing that jaw to release, to relax, the mouth to drop open a little. Let it go. Let it go. Yeah. Relaxing down your neck. And relaxing over your shoulders. Down your arms. and into your hands. As we continue to relax down the body, remember it's okay if there are spots that don't want to relax right now. Instead of trying to force anything, just soften around the tension so that you're not resisting it. You're greeting it with that attitude of acceptance. Bringing attention to your chest and inviting the chest to relax and release. Maybe noticing the little relaxation that happens with each exhale. And allowing that to deepen your overall relaxation. Bringing your attention to your stomach and inviting the stomach to relax and release. You may be aware of a slight grasping deep inside of the belly. And if you are aware of that, in a really gentle, kind of curious, low-key way, just invite it to soften a little bit. And then notice, does that make the jaw tighten up? Release the jaw. Does that make the stomach tighten up? Release the stomach. Good. Now relaxing the sides of the torso. Feeling that relaxation pour down the sides of the body. Relaxing. Letting go. Now bringing your attention to your upper back, back of the shoulders, shoulder blades, between the shoulder blades, relaxing and releasing. So we're just using the muscles we need in our body to sit up. And we're inviting everything else to release as much as possible, giving us a nice, relaxed, neutral body to hang out with while we meditate. Relaxing into the mid-back. And relaxing the lower back. Relaxing the hips, the butt, the pelvic area. Letting all that go. Releasing the pelvic floor. Opposite of what you do in yoga. In yoga, you pull that part of the body up and in, like you're stopping a stream of pee. And here, we let it go. Let it go. Remembering to check back in with the stomach, the jaw, the shoulders. Does the body tighten up elsewhere when we release here? Just gently, patiently, continuing to relax all of these areas as much as possible. Relaxing down both of your legs. And into your feet. Okay. So now it's going to be a personal journey for each of you. Going to open up to emotions, talk, and image. You can allow awareness to free float between the three of them, or if you like, you can intentionally move your attention from one to the other. Or maybe you just stay with one for the whole meditation, or just two. This is really your own practice. I'm here to guide, to facilitate, but you're the one inside there. You're the one witnessing, the one experiencing. If you're aware of emotional sensations, you're simply feeling them, getting really curious about the size, the shape, the textures, the movement or flow. Do they expand, contract, undulate, vibrate? Do they feel sharp or smooth? And as you feel the emotional sensations, you're letting the story of them go. Doesn't mean you quiet the mind. You just allow it to do its thing while you focus all your attention on the emotional sensations in your body. If you're noticing mental talk, you're simply listening, not so much to the content as to the activity. Witnessing auditory thinking. Witnessing. It's not personal. It's just talk. Or perhaps you are aware of images, in which case you're just looking at, watching the activity of image, coming, going, morphing, flowing, all around you or just on a tiny screen in front of your face. Very clear or wispy and mysterious. These are the three strands of experience that create a self. We are witnessing, feeling, seeing, hearing the process of self, the process of selfing. Stay relaxed and open, accepting, curious. Remembering that while this is the technique I taught today, it doesn't mean it has to be the technique you do. If it's just hard, like hard work, like you're bored, you don't want to do it, well then I invite you to do it. But if it's hard, like, I don't feel safe doing this, then certainly do not do it. Trust your body. That's where that bravery and gentleness comes in. We always want to be brave, moving towards our edge. We also want to be gentle, putting self-love first. Are you witnessing and exploring emotion, talk, or image? Know which one you are working with. If it starts to get murky and muddy, try using the labels: emotion, talk, image. If you start to go into dreamy land, get crisp, get clear, wake up. If you can observe, if you can witness dreamy land, fine. But if you just get pulled in on the ride, while that's nice, what we're practicing today is stepping to a broader perspective and observing the process of self. Deconstructing what it is to be a me. What does that emotional sensation feel like? Feel it. How are those words or images flowing, changing? Observe it. Witness it. Get curious. What is this self? What is this thing that runs the show? How does this thing operate? As you get to know it, as you offer it love and acceptance through your attention, your relationship with self will start to change. You'll no longer say, "How the hell did I end up here again? I promised this wouldn't happen again." That can't happen when you know self. Well, it can, but not for long. When when you really know this activity, when you know this selfing process, you can't get pulled too far down the rabbit hole before you recognize what's going on. And then you have a choice. Do I continue lost in self? Or do I step out? Do I pause? Do I get a little bit curious about this whole self thing? And that's when suffering starts to become optional. But first we need to really deeply know, what is this thing that suffers? What are the strands of this experience that is suffering? It's the same strands of experience that are joy, that are lust, that are pride, that are seeing that family member you missed so much and you love so much, that are seeing that family member you can't stand. These strands of experience are everything that you as a self experience. Get to know it. Whatever you're thinking, that's the object of focus. Observe it. Same thing with whatever you're feeling. It's all included in this meditation. So thought cannot be a distraction here. It's what you're meditating on. Taking just a few more minutes with this, really committing. If you're doing something else, commit to that. This is your practice, and you're the only one you're cheating if you cheat. Remember, you can be relaxed and breathing and still concentrating. Okay, so we've deconstructed. We're going to take the last few moments of the practice to reconstruct. We're going to reconstruct a positive self. So in this case, we will be doing something. We will be making something happen. I want you to start by smiling. Just do it. Feel that smile. Feel the sensations of it. Doesn't matter if it's fake, just do it. And then I want you to bring to mind an image of something that's unconditionally good or fun or joyful for you. Could be a kid or an animal or yourself smiling, running through a daisy-filled field. I'm partial to the arrivals gate at the airport and people running into each other's arms and hugging. If there's no images available, you can start right now with words, just bringing positive words to mind. And in fact, we can all do that along with the images if you like, whatever works for you. You can try some positive affirmations. I am happy, I am healthy, I am at peace with myself and with others, or anything you want. This is really your trip. So it's about filling the mind, flooding the mind with positive talk and image. Keep that smile going, it will help. And so as you're flooding the mind with these positive images and words, and you're smiling, hopefully some positive emotions are firing even subtly in the body. And so we're just going to be just for a moment here with this positive experience that we're intentionally creating. So we're using these strands of experience that, before we really know them, use us. We're actually saying, I'm going to use you. I'm going to take these strands of experience and I'm going to intentionally make them positive. And then focus on that positive experience. Don't be hard on yourself here. It's actually not the easiest thing in the world to do. So just take it easy. It could just be a sandwich that you really enjoyed. Just think of that. It could be that we're almost done. Maybe you're really ready to be done with the meditation. Just think about that. Or maybe you got a big insight and you're feeling proud of yourself for sitting with maybe some discomfort that led to that insight. Whatever works. Creating and recreating a positive experience in the mind and the body. Smiling. And then with whatever sort of positivity you've cultivated, if you like, just go ahead and flip your palms up, facing the ceiling, if that speaks to you. If not, don't worry about it. And just imagine that this positivity is flooding out of your hands, rushing out of your hands and filling the room, touching everybody in here. Just filling the space with this positivity, with this love, with this kindness. Sharing it with each other, feeling it come back to you. Smiling, relaxing. Reconstructing with positivity, and then sharing that positivity with your community. And as you are ready, you can start to open your eyes, and don't feel you need to jump out of the meditation. Just slowly, gently open your eyes. Let in the candlelight. Breathe. Relax. Okay. So if you haven't opened your eyes, go ahead and open them just so that you're not shocked by the lamp when I turn it on. Just let your eyes adjust for a minute. Okay. So we have time for maybe 2 questions. If you have a question, well, if you have a question about this technique, that would be great. But if you have some other question that you really want to ask, that's cool too. And I'm always happy to chat a little bit after the class too. So any questions? Kind of shocked. There's always questions about this technique.
I guess I just have a comment.
Yeah, please.
All of my images were tied to memories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's like, if everyone's experience is different, or if that's normal, or if you get to a point where you can actually sort of construct your own images. I'm sure it's different for everyone, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I would say yes, it's probably definitely different for everyone. And with this technique that we were doing today, except at the very end, we weren't actually constructing anything. We were just noticing what was there.
Right.
So yes, you can cultivate that ability to create image, certainly, but that wouldn't necessarily be part of this technique. That might just be like a creative exercise or something.
Right.
You can also sensitize to it over time. For some people at first it's just very subtle, and then for some folks it's just not part of their experience when they close their eyes. It's just not what's there. So it really wildly varies. Was it bothersome or interesting? What was your experience of having all the memory images?
No, it was like pleasant childhood
Hmm.
memories. Yeah.
Nice.
But unexpected ones.
Uh-huh.
Like ones that I haven't accessed in a really long time that kind of sprung out of nowhere.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all in there in the
Yeah.
subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when we dream, we have no idea, like, where did that come from? That's a strange, crazy story. But yeah, you'll notice more of that if you work with this. I remember I was on retreat once, and I can't remember what the movie was now, but a whole movie played, like the whole thing. I wish I could remember what movie it was. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Like it just played, and it wasn't even while I was sitting, it was while I was doing my chores. I was like cleaning the building's bathroom or whatever and watching a movie while I did it. It was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. So, all kinds of interesting memories in there. I'm glad they were pleasant.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Mm-hmm.
I actually had sort of a mixed experience, but for part of it, it was somewhat like the opposite,
Mm-hmm.
where there's something that I'm dreading that is going to happen in the future, and I kind of like keep picturing like the worst case scenario, and then I'm like, oh, it's going to be so awful and awkward and whatever, and then I like imagine how it could be, and then it just like played out and it's like it actually happened, but it hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably not going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
So while you were in your
Interesting
meditation,
how that, like, connected, yeah.
while you're in your meditation, that just kind of kept playing? Is that?
No, I mean, it was just part of it. Like, for one part, I realized like I was having these thoughts like it's going to be so awful. I don't even remember. It was like immediately like imagine how it would be if it was awkward and awful and whatever. But it was just interesting how like it just shifted, like yeah, it was almost like instantaneous how it went from the talk to the images.
How much are you thinking about it or trying not to think about it during your day?
Not that often. I mean, it sometimes. It's usually when I'm like in school. It's related to that. But like in my daily life, it doesn't really come up all that much.
Well, you might play around with some positive restructuring around this, because what if it was awesome?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea what it is. Maybe it's off. I mean, it sounds like it's a tough one, but what if it was awesome? What if you were like, I get to have this experience because I'm alive and I'm a human and here I am and I'm having this experience and these feelings and these thoughts and it's so alive. Or what if it's an experience that leads you to like the next amazing chapter of your life? So you could start telling yourself that story instead. Doesn't mean we repress or ignore, right? Like maybe there's certain realities about it that you don't like. It's not about pretending, oh, it's fine, but also intentionally creating a positive narrative around it. And you know, it's amazing to me. I was doing this job, and it was my first year doing this job. This was years ago, and I was really nervous about it, about getting it right. And so every day I sat down and I visualized the job ending and high-fiving people because it went so well. And guess what? That's what happened. No, that could have not happened, but that is what happened. And I think that it's a way more likely that it would have been the opposite if I sat around thinking about people like just looking at me and shaking their head, right? Like it would have ended up probably, because that's the energy I would have brought into it. You know what I mean? And again, you know, this whole idea of this technique is the experience of this is awful. What's that made of?
Judgment. I mean,
what's judgment made of? What?
Just in terms of the emotions?
What is the experience of a self made of, in my opinion?
Can you repeat the question that you asked?
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot. So what I'm sort of getting at here is that the experience of something being awful, whatever this something is made up of thoughts, images, words, and emotions. And that's it. So if leading up to this experience, you use that meditation every day and in action while you're walking around in the world, when it happens, you'll see right through it. It's empty. It's just impermanent phenomena coming and going. You are so much more vast than that. There's so much more than that. It doesn't matter how awful the experience is. That's all that it is. I know that's hard to swallow when it feels very personal, but if we get to a place where we can view it as not so personal, then it's really just no big deal. You know, there might be tears, there might be whatever. We still have our experience, but there is an awareness of that experience that is much, 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 much bigger than those transient thoughts and emotions. Make sense? So work with it leading up. Yeah. Okay. It's just practice. You don't have to get it right. Okay? Any of it. What I'm talking about or anything else. This isn't a test that you're going to pass or fail. This is just this moment and this next moment. And the less we're trying to get the moment right, the more we get to be in the moment. You know?